first of all, congratulations. What a beautifully written and illustrated graphic novel. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
I think I'll start with Alex. Ladies first. Where did you get the idea for this? Because this is so intriguing to me. I mean, it has layers upon layers of corporate intrigue, government intrigue. It touches everything.
Well, the story was mostly Duncan's. I was in charge of finding the artists for it, creating a philosophy for turning it from a screenplay into a graphic novel, which we did in a lot of innovative ways. We have about 15 different line artists drawing the book, whereas with most graphic novels, one artist draws the whole book. And we did that for a bunch of reasons. One of which is we wanted to get it out faster than if we had one person having to spend a year and a half of their life drawing it. The other being, we're magpies. Like, there's so many comic artists we love and we dreamed of working with that breaking it up into various different chunks to parcel out to various different artists meant we got to work with almost everyone we really, really wanted to work with. And it's some of the greatest names in comics. We were very lucky. The story is a road trip story. So the way it breaks up between different artists actually works perfectly because each artist gets their own location, as it were, so they can completely own one particular location. But the story is Duncan's, but I work really well with Duncan because he's a character writer, and like so much of it was so well written that my job was really easy.
Duncan, I should have said this years ago when I met you at Sundance. On Moon, it is really one of my favorite movies of all time, and Sam Rockwell is just amazing in that. But you have such a it's an insight into science fiction, and making science fiction real, giving it that real touch.
Thank you. I mean, it's a niche that I've kind of created for myself as far as this kind of near future in a world that seems very tangible and believable, something close that you can almost see happening, and that's kind of where I've tried to tell my stories.
And with Madi, the main character of Madi, the titular Madi, I mean, I think she's someone who's what she's going through in terms of being constantly roped into like more and more jobs so she can just manage the debt that she has. And as she works, she's not actually getting ahead of her debts. They're keeping pace with her or outstripping her because she gets injured at work and then has to get more debt, having herself fixed and so forth and so forth. That's a real feeling for a lot of us right now. She's being crushed under obligations that she sees no way out of for the rest of her working life.
Yeah, I think it's a very relevant story to today, because the more we seem to try to get out of the holes we are in, the deeper the holes get.
Absolutely. And I think, what we try to balance, I think, Alex and I, is telling a big, exciting action sci-fi story, something that you'd want to go and see as a summer blockbuster if it were a movie, but at the same time try and sneak something a little bit more, a bit more real and interesting underneath as a layer of the story.
Now, both of you share a history of music. I mean, obviously, your dad and Alex, of course, in the music, directing music videos and all of that. Do you find rhythms and cadences in these characters?
Absolutely.
Take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with a graphic novel. I mean, the number of times I said that coordinating the artist list was making the mixtape. Like, Duncan probably wanted me to shut up by the end of it. But when you're creating a graphic novel script, because the reader has to turn the page, there's a definite rhythm in terms of making little cliffhangers at the end of every odd page when you can, and then like a bigger cliffhanger every 4 to 8 pages. So yes, there's definitely a musical rhythm to how I view graphic novel writing.
Duncan, Frank Miller one time told me that graphic novel is basically a movie storyboard. Is that true?
Who am I to say anything against what he said? But what I would say is my experience of working with Alex, who's incredibly experienced and Eisner nominated and has done tremendous work in the past, is that there's a lot more to it than that, which I am hopefully have been learning over the course of making this book. She's just an amazing artist, and it is a similar job to directing movies in that you have to bring the best out of the people that you're working with. but you also have to have a kind of an over vision of all of the different elements that make a graphic novel. And it's an incredible thing to witness what Alex does and how it turns what I had as a screenplay into something so much bigger and more beautiful.
Yeah, it truly is just an amazing piece of work. It's a piece of art. Are you working on new projects now?
I am, but this has been a very strange past 12 months. So my wife is immunocompromised, so we're being extra safe and vigilant in how we get back out into the world. So I'm being very careful, and to be honest, this has been an outlet for me, which has meant an awful lot because it allowed me to be creative and artistic while keeping my family safe.
Alex, I'm going to give you the last word. When somebody drops a nickel to read this book, what do you think they're going to pull out of it?
Escapism, really. I mean, we've all been cooped up too long, and here's a book which spans the world, London to Shanghai, under the sea to Los Angeles, all the way across the US, in a near future that's like ours, but like dizzyingly exciting and different in small but important ways. What we could become if we're not careful. And I think people need that. I mean, we haven't had I always go to movies to escape. It's my favorite thing to do. One of the hardest things for me in lockdown, even though I live in the middle of New York City, is being unable to go to like revival movie theaters and sit in front of some old movie for 2 hours. And for me, this book gives you that sort of experience. It's that wonderful release of being taken out of your life and thrust into another life that's different enough that it gives you some sort of catharsis.
You guys, thank you so much for being part of our morning, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and it really is nice to see you again. And thank you for treating this, with the respect and seriousness that you have. I know it's a graphic novel, but we are both, we've made something we're incredibly proud of, and it's an art form that deserves that.
Well, it does deserve that. I come from animation. My aunt was June Foray, the voice actress who voiced Rocky the Flying Squirrel and Natasha and all of that. And I grew up with these great animators and graphic artists, and it is such an art form, and it needs to be brought to a center table, as much as we can.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you.
You guys have a great morning. Drink lots of coffee, and hopefully we'll talk in person soon.
Okay. Thank you. That would be great.